We're back with the next video, and I always want to start the video by acting like I'm teasing it, but obviously you saw the thumbnail, so you know why you're here. But time to do the Man of Steel. It's a little smaller than I wanted. I need to do better about realizing when I'm looking at the splicer or the slicer how big it is, because I would have sized it up a little bit if I knew it was going to be this small. But oh well. The cape is huge, so maybe that's where most of the scale comes in. But you will see we got a slight printer problem. I didn't want to, this took quite a long time to do this huge cape, so I don't really want to print again. I might just try to use filler and some putty and some green stuff and see if I can't, you know, it's kind of smooth, see if I can't just figure that out and mask it up. So we're gonna go for it and not have to print another one. But got everything sized and prepped. I don't know where these things have been my whole life. I'm really glad I started getting this. I got a big pack of these sandpaper sticks. These are so much nicer than using sheets because they just on all these nubs. It's just so much easier to file them down. Almost everything on this needed some work because they were all kind of tight. Just hit those up on all the edges with that sanding stick, and it fits nice and tight now. So looking pretty good. I think we are ready to go ahead and get this primed. You know, you got a lot of dots back there, but the cape's going to cover all that, so I'm not super concerned about that. But we can go ahead and get it primed. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I usually like to try to do something new with each build. So let's go ahead and skip to what that new thing for this one's going to be. And here it is. We have some transparent blue resin. This statue is standing like on, it looks like ice, like at the Fortress of Solitude. So I've never tried transparent resin before. We are going to try this clear blue to give us like a look of ice. And I've got some snow elements we're going to try to put into it too from another, just like some basing stuff. So first step, I guess, is we have to clear out the resin tank and make sure it's pretty clear and clean, because I imagine once you pour this clear stuff in, if you've still got any gray in there, it's not going to look good. So we're going to go ahead and get the tray cleared out. We'll pour this in and we'll print off the base and all the kind of pillars. All right, so we got our tray all cleared out, and here we go. This is the first time pouring in. Ooh, look how cool that looks. Hopefully I got enough of it. This is a smaller bottle than what. Very cool. Very cool. It's gonna look really cool when we get it starts printing. That's not a lot. Holy crap, that's not a lot. All right, so one thing we're gonna have to change that I realized is I currently have these hollowed like I usually do, which means that it puts supports in there. But apparently I'm gonna have to print these solid. Otherwise, since it's clear resin, you're gonna see the supports in there, which means it's gonna take more resin, which means I'm probably gonna have to end up buying more. But so we need to actually redo this, print these solid, so that you don't see the supports on the inside. Okay, so here's our report. I got all of the base and all the little pillars on one plate. It says it's gonna take 302 milliliters. I got 500 milliliters in the tank, so it should cover everything. We'll see. Hopefully it does, so we don't have to. The problem is everything's about the same height, so if we run out before it's done, then it'll be a wasted bottle because none of this will get printed. So hopefully it works. Let's give it a shot. Well, it didn't go too great. They definitely look cool. The pillars, I think, worked, but both halves of the bases, something happened at some point and they did not make it through. But I guess we got something out of it at least. At least we, you know, the worst is when the entire plate's a wash. So we'll get these guys off, and then we'll just have to figure out what we can try to do and try again. All right, so real quick, catching you up on what I've done with the little part I had here is I filled it in with some of this putty stuff right there from Vallejo. And you can see it's quite messy on the back side, but we really just got to fill it in. We're going to come back through with some sanding and try to sand all this down to make it even. But I think looking at the body here, once it's on there, I don't think you're really going to see that inside part. We just got to clean up, so if you spin it around, it doesn't look like that. But obviously, you know, you're not going to probably have the statue with the back showing. So we just need to make it look reasonable, which I think we can do. All right, so we got it kind of patched. I might come back and do a little bit more sanding, but you can see, I think once it is primed and painted, it will blend in, not too bad. I mean, again, I think his body's going to block the inside, and when it's posed, you're really not going to see around the back. And I think by the time it gets painted and covered and primed, it won't be too bad. It's definitely not worth the time it took in the resin to print this piece again. So we're going to go ahead and get primed up and see how it looks. Before we get going, I thought I'd show you guys too just how the base turned out. And you can see where I had to use 2 different bottles of resin and the color just looked a little different, and it just didn't really print well. Using this transparent resin was kind of a failure, but we're going to try to make it work, and I'll show you what we're going to do later. But here you can see, again, my airbrush is just not working. I think it's finally done. I need to buy a new one. So this project is pretty much going to be all hand painted, and I didn't really want to do it that way, but it's either that or this just sits on my table until I can get a new airbrush. So I thought, what the heck, let's go ahead and do it. And that blue goes on really smooth anyway. This red, though, as I'm starting on the boots, the red did not go on as clean as the blue did. So I kind of just had to keep going in and doing light coats. You can see where I tried to do a zenithal over the primer, but again, the gun just was not cooperating, even just to put like a light zenithal on. You can see a very little bit on there, but I think it's just Verdunsky with the airbrush. I keep trying to just see if it'll magically start working, and it doesn't. But so we just got to keep layering on. The red eventually gets there. It just takes like 3 coats to get it nice and smooth, but we'll go ahead and get the boots all done up. And here we go, starting on the trunks of Superman. I would say this particular model has a very prominent bulge for Superman that we're going to start on here, and of course get his fantastic super ass here in a second. You probably noticed there a common technique I do is I just like trimming out the area that I'm painting and then filling it in. I just know that like those edges are one of the hardest parts that I suffer with, is trying to get them clean. So I find just focusing on that, framing out my area, and then filling it in just works best internally for me, but that's just how I like to do it. And you'll notice I do that a lot on these when I'm using my brush. But we get the belt loops in, and again, it took quite a few coats of red. I won't show you all of them, but we just had to keep coming back over it and layering a bit on every about 15-20 minutes, and it got there eventually. And again, still working on my framing. I tend to just get focused on the painting and then pull the part out of frame, but I'm working on it. So here I'm using my UV light, my little pen light. There was some resin that was kind of leaking out of the hole there, so I just need to use that light, clean it up with a paper towel, and then just hit that light a few seconds to just kind of cure up any residue that's kind of sitting in the joint there. But now getting around to doing the same blue that we used on the chest, of course, on the arms here. Next, this Uriel, I guess maybe that's pronounced yellow, which is from Games Workshop, and I really like this yellow. If you go back and watch my Wolverine video, the yellow that I got from Vallejo was very like highlighter green undertone to it. You can almost see the green when you like pour it out of the bottle. So I didn't think that would work for Superman. This is a much more rich, kind of mustardy, goldish yellow, which I think just turned out really great. And it covered pretty well. I mean, it showed a little bit of streaks, but all yellow typically does. And of course, as we've talked before, you have to start with a white base, or yellow just ends up looking very brownish if you don't start with that kind of white base. So doing the belt, same thing. And again, starting with that white. Usually I do the same thing with red, but I think the red covered okay to make it work on the trunks without needing to lay down white under it. One area we did, though, start with a white base was on the chest emblem because we really wanted that to pop. So we wanted to make sure that we put down that white so that we would get, so again, the red would just really pop right off the chest. We didn't want it to be any kind of muted or kind of a darker maroon color. So just kind of filling it in, taking my time, doing very like short controlled strokes, which I would like to refine that technique. I mean, I think when you get in and look at it close, it doesn't look as good as when you can do like confident long strokes, but I'm just not there yet. I don't have the control to do that. So I just have to do just kind of short, steady strokes and just make sure I don't go over the lines or go over too much. Here's giving me a shot at trying to just use the airbrush to put down a base on the flesh tones. As you can see, it did not work. So we went to the brush, and this is that is the dark flesh, I believe, under it, and then the medium flesh that I'm putting on right now. And I will say, doing this whole process with brush, I feel like I could do makeup pretty well at this point, because it was about halfway through I realized I was doing the exact same thing. But this is just the base flesh, or I think it's a medium flesh is the technical name of it in the kit that I have. And again, we put it over that darker base because just to try to give it that like livelihood under your skin. I don't know why I shot this vertical, but you can see here it doesn't look terrible, but it is very pinkish. So now we're coming in with the highlight skin, and I immediately think I'm going too thick with this. I probably should have done more of like a light dry brush. So I try to just maybe not quite dry brush, but at least do a few swipes on a paper towel before I go on to the model. So we're just kind of putting down a highlight color. I kind of like loaded up on the back because the back gets covered by the cape, but I was kind of using it as a test area just to see like how it was reacting. So I was just kind of using that area as like a little bit of a test bed to kind of see. So next we're going to come in with the burnt flesh, which is what we're using for all the kind of nooks and crannies. So in the cheeks, the nose, under the neck, like in the folds there under the neck. So anywhere that you're going to have more shadows. So we just did the highlights, now we're doing the shadows with this burnt flesh. And again, this is where I realized that I was really just doing like contour makeup on because the next step we're going to do is we're going to come in with our dry brush, which is actually a makeup brush. And we're going to try to neutralize all of that by coming back in with the medium flesh that we started with, but just dry brushing over it so that we maintain those highlights, we maintain those shadows, but this kind of uniform medium neutral flesh kind of seals everything off and blends it all together. So this, I guess, would be like the blending part of it. And it's kind of funny, you'll see here, I still think it looks a little too pink, but a lot of times I've noticed whenever I start doing flesh is I feel like it doesn't look right, and then when I start doing the eyes and the hair and the lips and I start kind of filling out it ends up looking perfectly fine. So I went ahead and just said I'll leave it here for now. I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes, do the lips. I've already done the lips here, I didn't get that recorded, and do the hair, and then we'll just kind of take a look and see where we're at, and if we need to, you know, brighten up some areas or do some highlights or something, we can. But again, I just find like a lot of times framing in the rest of the face, I realize that the flesh tone isn't as off as I feel like it is. So went ahead and got all this done, did the hair. Also, I feel like this is kind of like a mix of like John Hamm and John Cena, like this face mold. It definitely looks a lot like John Hamm, and then at certain angles I definitely feel like it looks like John Cena. Maybe a dash of Henry Cavill in there as well. Let me know what you guys think. But there you go. I don't have the eyes completely done yet, but you can already see doing the hair and the lips being done, that the skin tone is starting to look normal. This blue I just bought at the store because I really liked it, and then I didn't even think like, oh, this would be perfect for the eyes. So I thought it would be great for like the his iris here. So again, I put it on the body because I wanted to see like where he's looking. This model kind of stands off center, and he's kind of staring off to the right, or to the left, I guess. So I just got to put the head on the torso so I can, when I'm putting in the eyes, I get an idea of how much his head is tilted down, looking forward. Because you don't want to put the eyes slap in the middle and then it looks like he's looking down. So just kind of helps kind of eye not make it look goofy. And then coming back in with the pupils. I think on this other eye, on the right eye, I did have to kind of go back over with white and take another shot at it, but I didn't capture it. But here, there was no way I was going to brush this entire cape. It would look terrible. It would have been streaky and it would have took like 4 coats. So I just went out and bought this Krylon spray paint can, and we're just going to cheat on that a little bit. But here's where I'm going to try to kind of blend the base in and make it look a little more uniform with this base glue and snow effect. So since this is the Fortress of Solitude, we're just going to spread this around and hope that it kind of makes the 2 pieces look a little more uniform and hide the colors. And then here's the cape all painted up. It turned out really good, and I think we're ready for the full reveal.